today we get to hear from our youth pastor, Shane Coffey. And I am so excited to hear the word that he is going to bring. We don't often get to hear from him on Sunday mornings, and I thought that was a shame. So Shane will hopefully be preaching for us once a quarter. So you get to hear from him more often and hear his preaching and teaching style. Shane runs and coordinates our high school and middle school youth programs on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. So we hope you'll get to know him a little bit better and get to hear more about the ministry that he's doing. And he gave me a little hint at his sermon today, and I just can't wait. It's such a joy to be able to sit here and receive the word this morning with you.
Good morning. Our reading this morning comes from the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, and I'll be reading from the Common English Bible. My brothers and sisters, think of the various tests you encounter as occasion for joy. After all, you know that this testing of your faith produces endurance. Let this endurance complete its work so that you may be fully mature, complete, and lacking in nothing. I also want to toss in this New King James Version. And it says, my brethren, count it all joy for when you fall into various trials, knowing that testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing. Count it all joy. That's something. Let me introduce myself first of all to you guys. My name is Shane. I am the director of Student Life Ministries. I have the privilege of working with some of these teenagers that are in here right now and preteens. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years. We are a wild and crazy bunch, that's for sure, but don't think 1 minute that we're reckless. They're pretty good kids. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. The message that I was going to do today was actually going to go on a little bit of a different course. And I promised that it had nothing to do with my son erasing my sermon and posting pictures of shoes on my computer for Christmas. Who doesn't want to hear about James, the brother of Jesus? And can we think for a moment the dynamic in that household is Jesus as your older brother? That's a whole story all of its own. But I don't want to go too far into that because we're actually going to be doing that as a Bible study in our student life. So if you want to join in on that at 6 p.m. on Sundays, we'd love to have some adults come and hang out with us and learn about Jesus and James. You want them to come. Yes, you do. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about being tested and how God truly is there and working amongst us even when we don't realize it. So I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of my history and dealing with this endurance and these trials. So I came from a household that was no stranger to alcohol abuse, drug abuse, physical and mental abuse. It was just kind of commonplace. At the age of 3 years old, I remember standing in my front yard and watching my mom's boyfriend get into a fight with one of our neighbors. I remember being in the front row and seeing him get stabbed. And I remember, oddly enough, this little snapshot of laying in the back seat on the way back home from the hospital. And, of course, that's what we did in the 80s. Seatbelts, what were those, right? So I was laying in the back seat, and I reached down, and I picked up this blood-stained piece of clothing. And I remember sticking my finger in the hole where the knife had gone through. And thinking back now to this day, I'm still kind of numb over that whole occurrence. I seen it in flashes in my mind, but I was just numb to it. By the time I was 4 years old, my mom had moved on, and I had met the man who I now call my father, who I call Dad, who, because he was a dad when he didn't have to be. And my life really changed a lot. We moved out into the country, and we had cattle and hogs and four-wheelers and chores and camping, and it was pretty awesome. But it didn't last forever. Before long, my parents started fighting a lot. And I remember they fought so much. 1 year, they fought every single night from Christmas back to Thanksgiving. Not the other way around. 11 months. They fought for 11 months. And eventually, they did get a divorce. And I chose to stay with my father. my stepdad. When I was 18, I was an old senior because I got held back in kindergarten. When I was 18 years old, I made the decision to drop out of high school because my mother was dealing with a lot of stuff on her plate and she couldn't afford to pay her bills. So I took on a full-time job and helped her pay her bills. And that was a lot. That was a lot for me to take on, and it was stressful. It was a lot because I walked away from high school. I walked away from wrestling, from football, going to college with my friends like we'd planned. And it really stuck with me. It stuck with me for a lot of years. And I was able to get certificates through my job for trades. I got a lot of certificates through trades over the years. But years later, not long after I actually started working with the students here, I decided that in order to further myself through my job, I needed to go back to school. I needed to go back and get my GED. Iowa Western offered an amazing program for adults. It was an accelerated GED program, so I took it. Well, one day on my way to this class that I was taking, I decided to take another way, and I don't know why I took this other way, but when I was taking this direction back to the school, I saw one of my youth students walking down the road. Now see, my older kids are in this guy's class, and I know they're in school. So I pulled over and rolled down my window. I was like, hey man, what's up? Need a ride? And he hopped in. Well, when he hopped in, I turned right back around and took him to school. You should have seen the look on his face when I pulled into the school. He was like, what are we doing back here? And I told him, you're not going to get this right now, and that's okay, but you really need to be here right now. And it's all right if you don't get it. And then for about 12 more times, I picked this kid up on the side of the road and got him back to school. But funny enough, the kid ended up graduating. And when he graduated, we got invited to his graduation party. And he came up to me and he said, Shane, why did you keep picking me up all the time? Well, I told him it was simple. Because I just pulled up. And he knew that every time I pulled up, I was going to take him right back to school. And he just kept getting in the car. So he graduated high school, went on to college, and has got a pretty awesome job now. See, what I didn't realize at the time when I told him that he really needed to be at school was that God had put me there that day. For all this path that I had gone on, I was actually heading this direction. I didn't realize it when I was telling him that you really needed to be here right now, was that I was meant to be there with him in that parking lot, dropping him off back at school. That's part of what James calls our trials. That's part of what James calls my trial. We're all tested, and let me say it like this. We all of us have drama. If you don't have it going on in your life, or if you haven't had it going on in your life, trust me, don't worry. You're going to have it. It's going to find your way. James says that it is inevitable. But most importantly, drama, it's got a key to your front door of your house. It is going to come in and it's going to make a mess. And there's nothing that we can do about it. But James is telling us to meet this drama with joy. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be smiling and laughing hysterically while your world is falling apart around you. Absolutely not. We're all going to think you're crazy, and we're going to be a little bit worried for you. But what James is saying is that you can't skip the difficult times. When you look back over your life lessons and things that really help make you who you are today, those are lessons. You have to count it all joy, the good times and the bad times. He says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. So when you're surrounded by trouble, drama, pain, adversity, instead of getting depressed and frustrated and letting it rule you, consider it all with a joyful attitude. In doing so, it'll make you produce patience, not like the patience that you may think of, more like an active endurance and faith. I'm not talking about the endurance that it takes to have the patience waiting in the dentist office when you know something really bad's about to happen, but the type of endurance that it takes to complete a marathon. Knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience, faith is tested through trials, not produced through trials. Trials reveal what faith we have and what faith we don't have. Being tested means that when you're out Christmas shopping, be nice to that person that's not being so nice to you at the store, even when you don't want to be. It means being kind to the person who shares their opinions about everything, even when you don't share their opinion. It means helping people even though you know they can help themselves, but they won't. By counting it all joy, we're able to grow in our faith journey and have more mature relationship through our faith with God. We've all been there. We all have these stories of hard times that we actually look back on probably a little more fondly now than we did when we were really going through it. And we're all a little bit better for it. What I want to do is I want to create a Count It All Joy board. And we're going to put it in the Centrix. I'm going to have the student life kids make a board up, and we'll make it an annual thing. I was going to bring in some disposable cameras and have people take snapshots, but then my wife told me I was crazy because everybody has phones, and you can just take a picture, and we'll set up it so you can take pictures of things that bring you joy. And what I want to do is I want to put it here in the entryway, so when people are coming into church, even for the first service or for the second service or for a Bible study at night or for student life, we're all being able to share these things amongst each other to see what brings Broadway joy. It could be a photo of your kids, because Lord knows they have a lot of drama attached to them, right? We do know that. It could be anything appropriate, that is. And I want to know what brings you joy, what you had to go through to get to it, and we want to celebrate that with you. And your joy will bring others joy. When people come into the church, they'll be able to see the photos and bring joy to members of Broadway here and at home. For our online congregation, I'll find a way to get the photos put on there for you if you send them to us. And I'll find a way to also share it digitally so that way everybody can view it. We're all on different planes here, but when it comes to our life experience, we're really all in this together. And on that, I want to wish everybody Christmas joy, and thank you.